here at my facility, Kivet Kinetic Solutions in Indiana, and I've got two of the Aliva chill tubs, the ice tubs behind me. Here's the deal. We wanted to teach you today how to utilize contrast between two separate tubs. And what we have figured out is it takes a very special adapter to attach a hose to your kitchen sink or utility sink in order to fill up hot water into one of the tubs. So one of the tubs behind me has cold water, like kind of aiming for that 50 to 55-degree temperature, where the other one was supposed to have up to 104, so between 100 and 104 degrees. So we're a little delayed in trying to get this episode showing today because we've run into a major snafu. And I'm going to take you through my challenges so that if you're having the same challenges, that we can give you some ideas on how to overcome that. Anyhow, I'm going to take you here with me so that you can see the tubs. So one is already filled up with cold water. Okay, that's going to be this one right here. And we've got our ice. We've already got one bag of ice in there that melted immediately. And then this one, well, it's only partial full with water that's about 100 to 101 degrees. And here's what happened. So what is awesome about Life Pros, they have sent the hose adapter to be able to work with your sink. And I'm taking you into where my sink is so you can actually see everything that we've attempted to do that did not work. In fact, we created a leak on my floor. But the hose that comes with, okay, because we tried to use this hot water from a hot water heater to fill up this tub, which was going to take about 20 minutes, the hose attaches really well to this part of the fixture, but it does not seal up to the actual garden hose. So this is a do not do, because this is this won't work. And for those of you who are joining us from Facebook or YouTube, you are not having trouble joining. I was late getting on because we ran into a leak. We didn't realize like this was working until it started leaking water from underneath the source. So it's kind of one of those days, but I'm sharing this with you because this is actually something that can happen to you, and I'm saving you the headache. So if you choose to use your shop sink inside your home, garage, what have you, this adapter works very well, okay? But it does not attach very well to the hose, which created a backflow of water, which went back through my fixture as it was flowing water in, and then it ended up under my cabinet. So now we've got a big old mess, but it's all good. Life Pro's worth it. So that setup is a no-go, okay? You're gonna wanna make sure you get yourself a hose adapter that goes to your spigot, that also goes to your hose, so that you can use hot water, if you choose to fill up the Aliva Chill tub for the purpose of using hot versus cold. Either way, we're still going to go through the demonstration as if it's full of hot water. The bottom of it does have some hot water. It's just not completely full. So I wanted to take you through why we are about 15 minutes late getting on this episode, and why some of you think that you're having trouble getting on. It's my fault. I'm taking the blow on this one. We didn't want to test this until it was time to go, because it takes a lot of water, hot water, to fill this up. And we just honestly assumed that our adapter would work, and it didn't. So it's okay. What we do know is we have, this one already has ice in it, and we have a whole nother bag of ice. This is, let's see here. This is a 20-pound bag of ice, and it melted pretty fast when we poured it in. And the ideal temperature that you want to get into your chill tub is going to be somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? And I'm going to talk to you about the science behind that, because the user manual has a lot of discrepancies, a lot of contradictions to some of the science. So we are actively in the process of editing the manual. So if you happen to get one of these units and you're hearing conflicting statements from me versus what's in the manual is not accurate in a lot of areas, and we are updating that right now. So I've been in this business for over 20 years in sports medicine, and we've been using contrast bath and cold water immersion for decades. It goes all the way back to centuries, to like the Ice Age, really. And it's very, very common in the Eastern world and European countries. They do it. They've been doing it for longer than we've been doing it here in the States. But I wanted to give you just some of the clinical studies that I've read up on, and there are a lot. But the user manual does mention not to do cold water immersion or polar plunges if you have autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, if you've got MS, different challenges. And there are studies that I have found that actually confirm that cold water immersion actually improves the outcome and the symptoms of autoimmune disease. And I'll explain to you here in just a second as to how that happens. But more importantly, if you choose to do 2 tubs, I'm still going to go through like the science and how much time one versus in the other. And then I'm going to submerge into the one that's really cold. Last week that we did this, I did not have a thermometer, so I got myself a little ducky thermometer to be able to measure the temp. And because we actually have this overfilled, I'm going to release some water down at the bottom so that when I go to pour the ice in, it doesn't melt fast. Now, here's my recommendations. Because it takes about 20 minutes to fill one of those tubs up, you want to make sure if you're going to put ice in, I would put ice in it first versus putting it in last, because you put it in at the top, and if it overflows when you get into it, you're losing your ice. Okay. So I would highly recommend, the ice was not here yet when we started filling, so that's on my error. But I will tell you, you're going to need about 4 20-pound bags of ice to get that water temperature as cold as 50 to 55 degrees, but 60 degrees will work just the same. So if you are new to cold water immersion, you want to make sure that you are easing in and doing a cooler temperature, not a colder temperature, until you can learn the breathing that goes along with this, because breathing is really important when you are doing cold water immersion. And if you go into a state of reactive breathing where you're in a fight or flight and breathing versus okay, you're flipping the switch between 2 different nervous systems. Our autonomic nervous system is kind of the gateway as to whether our body is fixing itself or fighting. And when we breathe really, really fast, breathing in through our mouth, we actually kick in the fight or flight nervous system, which increases inflammation, which we don't want. So you want to make sure that you're getting used to the deep diaphragmatic breathing that comes through the gut, meditational breathing, nice and slow in, nice and slow, longer out, because that really engages the parasympathetic nervous system for rest, recovery, and restoration. But it also amplifies how well the vagus nerve works, which affluences every single system in the human body. So really, really powerful if you know how to work the vagus nerve with breathing. And the first thing you're going to think of doing when you get into a cold water, a cold tub of water, is right? And so you have to know that when you're going in, I want you to think about embracing it, as opposed to, oh my gosh, this is so miserable. Embrace that you're actually fixing and enabling your body to surrender the inflammatory levels, and that it's you're giving your body permission to fix itself. So I got my ducky thermometer here. The other resource that I had talked about before that I didn't have handy are the neoprene booties or the neoprene toe covers. I mentioned that in the product launch a few weeks ago. These I got on Amazon for 10 bucks. And the most uncomfortable part of getting into a cold water immersion is going to be the fact that your toes actually have to handle the extreme temperatures. And all of our nerves in the peripheral extremity, peripheral nervous system, actually end down into the bottom of the feet and the toes. So our feet are hypersensitive to cold and hot. And 80% of the nociceptor, those are nerve cells that give your brain information about where you're at in space and homeostasis, exist on the skin on your palms and the skin on the bottom of your feet. So if you can't get past how uncomfortable or painful the cold water is on your feet, then you're going to wear these neoprene booties, which kind of act like a wetsuit, if you will, and insulating the bottom of your feet so that your body, the global part of your body, can actually receive the treatment like you want it to, and you can actually meditate without fighting it. So I got these, like I said, got them on Amazon. These are a size medium. They just arrived yesterday. And there they are. They actually work really well. They got little traction on the bottom. But if you live on a coastal area and you have access to getting into the ocean with the salt, electrolyte exchange is really, really awesome. And so if you have access to that and you want neoprene booties, especially if you live on the West Coast, the Pacific Ocean is awesome for polar plunging. I did that. I do it every season when I go out there. So we've got ice going in. So you're a witness. You're seeing the ice going in. 20 pounds. We already had 20 pounds in there. The Aleva Chill tub holds a little less than 100 gallons, so right at 99 gallons of water. And I'll let you see the ice floating so you know I'm legit. I know you already saw it going in, so you're not going to question it. But we all want to see the duck floating around and the water as cold as it is with the ice forming and melting on top. But I would highly recommend you doing that before you fill up your Aleva Chill so that you know about how much your water you're going to need, because half full is really good because the water is going to rise as soon as you get in. Okay. So I'm going to take you a little closer so we can have a great little conversation here while I'm submerging myself. Okay. Now, I have my studies here, and here's what I'm going to suggest you do. I'm going to suggest that you ease in with your lower body first, let your lower body get used to it, and then lower yourself. If this is your first couple of times, you can do this a couple of times a week. You don't want to do it every single day as your body's getting used to it. With the hot tub, we want that to be the water temperature to be 100 to 104 max, no hotter than 104. 104 actually is at the higher end. And if we're doing contrast, we're actually going to get in the warm for 3 minutes, 3 minutes on the warm, and then we're going to submerge in the cold for 1 minute. Now, I want to talk to you really quick about a couple of concerns that I actually printed off some of these studies. If you are somebody who has cardiorespiratory disease, meaning you've got heart condition, you've got a pulmonary condition, because of the way that cold water immersion works with hot water immersion, working extreme on a lymphatic pump, so you're creating a pumping sensation. If you have a heart condition, it can kind of stress and taxi that. So make sure that you consult with your physician if you have a cardiologist that you're working through. And if you're wanting to try this, because again, with chronic disease, autoimmune, any kind of immune problems, there are a profound number of studies that show that cold water immersion actually reverses inflammatory problems, chronic pain, chronic inflammation conditions, autoimmune disease. It actually reverses it. So, but when I was going through and looking at the contraindications, excuse me, I've not had enough water today. Let me take a quick water swig. There we go. Okay. If you have any kind of an open wound, if you have high blood pressure, or if you have deep vein thrombosis, those are 3 no-nos for getting into contrast bath. Why is that? Because if we're getting into one and then getting into the other, we're creating this vasodilation, vasoconstriction, mechanical pumping, which changes blood flow, but it also changes hormonal response. And if you already have a condition or a recent, you've had a stroke recently, deep vein thrombosis, which is blood clots, we don't want to mobilize those until we know that those have been dissolved, resolved, what have you. So make sure if you have heart disease, open wounds, because we don't want to interrupt cellular regeneration for an open wound. The other thing with open wound is you don't really want to soak if you have an open wound, because you're introducing bacteria into the body, viral and fungi into the body. If it's something that's been going on for a while, goodness, must be having some allergies out here. Okay, so again, we're going to start warm for 3 minutes, and we are going to go into cold for 1 minute. Now, contrast is totally different than just cold water immersion or getting into a hot tub, okay? There are phenomenal health benefits for both. But when you combine both of them into one session, like, it is exponentially awesome as to what results you can experience. But again, if you are somebody who has those challenges with the cardio system or with blood flow, or you've had blood clotting issues, we have to be really, really careful and exercise caution. Now, excuse me, I'm so sorry. When we are getting into warm water, our our vessels open up. Okay, we get vasodilation. Vessels open up, blood flow goes up. We're able to push toxins out. Okay, we're able to mobilize nutrients, and it's very calming. It's mentally very calming to most people. However, if you have MS, if you have Parkinson's, if you have diabetes, some of those chronic diseases actually create more complications the higher your body temperature rises. And we don't want our body temperature to rise any more than 1 degree or 2 degree at the most on the spectrum, because a lot of things biochemically happen in the body when we do that. So when you are thinking about being in kind of water immersion one way or the other, if you're in warm water immersion, 101 to 104 degrees, 15 to 20 minutes is generally the max for most safety guidelines for getting into a hot tub. Mainly because when we increase body temperature, core body temperature, when we add external heat source to our body's regulatory system, for those who have autoimmune conditions or chronic disease challenges, it actually makes those symptoms go up. So that's why dipping into the cold water immersion shuts it down, which creates vasoconstriction. Okay. And when we shut the pump down and we lower the body temperature and we shock the system, then it flips the switch off of our body fighting itself, attacking itself, and it goes into a reboot button. Okay. But we do that just for a minute, and then we want to open the vessels back up. We don't want to create too much constriction for too long, because we don't want to destroy cells and blood flow that are coming and going. So it's 3 minutes of warm, 1 minute cold, back and forth for a total of 20 minutes is what our contrast protocol is. If you have an injury to your extremity, so if you've got a foot ankle injury, or you're wanting to work on motion following a total knee replacement, or a knee surgery like meniscus tear, ACL reconstruction, what have you. If you get into warm water in order to get exercises going, range of motion, then you get into the cold in order to shut down inflammation, and are able to shut those vessels down, shutting the inflammatory process. And then we go back into the warm where things start to open up and work again. It works like a lymphatic pump in pushing toxins and gunk out of the joint. And let's face it, if you're working with the foot ankle, or if you're working with the knee, there's only so much extra fluid or swelling that can go in those joints before you can't move. So the idea is to get in one and out of the other and back and forth while keeping the body part moving, because you're creating an external pump with the water, and you're using that as a lymphatic detox. So it works really, really well on acute injury, and it works really, really well for chronic disease. In the user manual, it mentions that if you have this whole long list of chronic disease problems, stay away from the tub. And I'm telling you, no. If you have one of those long listed diseases that I have not already shared with you, so heart disease, open wounds, deep vein thrombosis, talk to your physician and see if you are safe to do cold water immersion, especially because the clinical backing for autoimmune disease and recovery, autoimmune is simply the body attacking itself. The body is attacking itself because of whatever invaders have been introduced into the system. Those invaders have mutated. The brain doesn't recognize it. It goes to attack. Okay. And when it attacks, we get sick, or we have pain, or we have a miscommunication between the brain and our nervous system. So it doesn't work by taking a lot of pills necessarily. And if you can hang up the pills and use more natural resources, then you are putting less into your system that it can actually attack, or your system attacking you. And so there are a lot of scientists who have been studying this for, again, decades, centuries. And what it shows, I've got a lot of studies here that I've sorted through, and there's some here that I have that are printed off, and there are others that I've read through that that I didn't print off, but went through and read a lot of these things. Here's how it works. If you are getting into the Aleva chill tub, into cold water, you're wanting that water temperature to be between 50 and 60 degrees ideally. If you are a senior citizen, or you're elderly, or you've got diabetes, or any kind of peripheral neuropathy, you've had cancer treatments, and for whatever reason, you don't feel your extremities the same way that you did before, you're going to err to the side of 60 degrees versus 50 degrees. Okay. You're going to start less intense and work your way up until you can really feel and experience what things should feel like. And if you go straight into cold, extreme cold, there are complications that can happen right away if you don't ease into it. So make sure that you're building yourself up over time, instead of just, I'm going in and I'm going all in, like as hardcore as I can go. Like, don't do that. If you are a senior citizen, or if you are somebody who is suffering from peripheral neuropathy, you want to make sure and ease into it so that you can meditate, you can mentally process what's happening, you can actually feel the differences without going into panic mode, and your body can actually slowly reverse that process. Here's a really cool fact that I was reading about last night. Cold water immersion actually increases fat metabolism. Okay. Why is that? Because when we consume, whether we're consuming a good diet or we're bringing in a lot of sugar, what we know in nutrition is sugar is an inflammatory food. And so when we get too much inflammation in our system, the fat molecules don't work the same way, because our body is fighting. And when our body is in a fight or flight state, fat is not being used for fuel. Our body uses glucose, glycogen in the muscles, and when it dissipates and runs out of that, then it starts breaking down and attacking the muscle and using the muscle for energy instead of actually tapping into the fat. Why is that? It happens that way because the body cannot break down fat fast enough to give you the energy you need in order to actually keep up when your body is inflamed or in a fight or fight panic state. It can go on sugar and muscle for a long time. So if you are trying to lose weight, trying to lose fat mass, and you have really hit a plateau and you've struggled with that, cold water immersion actually does work to help reboot that system, pushing you into that parasympathetic recovery restoration state, and allows your body to release fat for fuel. Very, very cool. There was a whole clinical study on that I read through last night, which was really, really powerful. There's a study here that was released in 2021. Cold exposure protects from neuroinflammatory problems through immunologic reprogramming. So what does that mean? I could go through this and read to you all these great details, but what I want you to get to on the bottom line is when we have inflammatory problems, exposure to cold actually provokes a high cost, high gain physiological response at reducing heat dissipation and oxidative stress. So the more we can reduce oxidative stress, reduce heat in the body from an inflammatory standpoint, the more our body can actually provide the environment to fix itself. And that's what cold water immersion does. It actually provides the environment internally for our body to work optimally at homeostasis, at regulating our body systems and keeping us in survival without more inflammation. The other thing is organisms in our system that are not supposed to be there actually become shocked and zapped when we expose our body to extreme temperatures. Now, if we're out in the ocean and we go through hypothermia, it creates a paralysis type of situation, and you're out in the ocean. So that's why a lot of people drown of hypothermia being in cold water. This is totally different because you're controlling the environment, you're controlling the time and when you're in the water versus when you're out of the water. So for senior citizens, it was shown that if you can get into cold water immersion from anywhere from 7 minutes to 20 minutes at a temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit, there are really, really great effects that respond from that until you're able to acclimate to that 55 degrees for 15 minutes. So what are you hearing? If you have to go warm water, meaning not extreme cold, but going cold at 60 degrees, you can go a little bit longer and kind of create that average exposure time, instead of going 55 degrees for 10 or 15 minutes, and get good results. So that is especially for the senior population. Again, I'm going to get into that. That's one thing that is stated in that study. Now, as I'm getting in here, now that the ice has settled, the water temperature, oh, it's cold. Okay, so remember, okay, I mentioned this to you last time. I've got fibromyalgia, okay? So cold water makes me hurt. Ugh, I hate it. But guess what? It's really good for me. So the water temperature, Ducky says it's right at 60 on the dot. So if I were going to do this different next time, I'd buy another 20-pound bag of ice and put it in the cold and go for about 55. 55 degrees for me would probably be better, but it's definitely going to be a lot colder than what we did the last time because the water temperature is probably around 65, just coming out of my regular faucet. Okay, so 60 degrees is what that is. Okay, so we're going to let Ducky float around in there with me. And I'm going to bring you a little closer so that you can see my response. And I will tell you that I had a great experience last time. For as much as I hate this stuff, I hate cold weather, hate cold water. I don't like taking cold showers because I don't do very well. I like freeze up. Okay, so I'm going to ease in. Ooh, I'm going to ease in. And again, I'm not going to go into a fight or flight because I know that it's helping me. I know it's like making my life better. So I'm embracing that. And because I'm talking to all of you live, I have to control my breathing because it's coming through my diaphragm when I'm talking to you. You can't reactively breathe without huffing and puffing. And most people will hold their breath when they're in a cold water plunge instead of embracing it and actually breathing. And when you breathe and talk at the same time at a comfortable pace, it actually allows you to control the experience. Okay. So I'm letting this, I'm desensitizing myself here right now. Okay. I'm actually going to bring this a little closer to you so that you can see a little more. And it's going to take about 5 minutes for my body to go completely numb to where I can't feel things the same way. But I know you guys are excited to see me do this, whether I'm suffering or not, right? I have my little step stool here so that when I get in, I can have a little bit of support getting in. And my feet feel good. So I like having my little booties. So now I'm gonna go easing. Oh, I'm easing into easing into my torso first. So I'm on my knees in here. If you need a little stool, I'm just easing into my lower torso. So my gut is not underwater yet. So I'm easing myself system by system. My pelvic floor is immersed right now, which means that my brain is receiving the effects of the cold water immersion because the cranium and the sacrum work together via the spinal canal. Okay, so the central nervous system is our heart, our respiratory, and our brain, and our autonomic nervous system is everything else. Okay, but there is a direct phone line communication between your feet, the bottom of your feet, your pelvis, and your brain. And I'm accessing that system right now by just immersing halfway. So do you have to go completely under? Not yet. So if you do have a heart condition, and if you want to try this at 60 degrees, just ease in halfway or just up to your thighs if you want to try. So these are the steps. Now, when it comes to time frame, okay, there are multiple studies that have been done not only on athletes, but on the general population for autoimmune. And what has been found for anybody who is not a senior citizen or a young child, so senior citizens, it's a little different, but if you are not considered at that senior level yet, that master's level, if you will, cold water immersion is most effective if it is between 50 and 55 degrees ish for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Okay. Initially, when I gave you the launch a couple weeks ago, I mentioned 5 to 10 minutes. And the studies are showing in looking at post-exercise recovery or post-stress recovery, if you get in between 50 and 55 for 15 minutes is kind of the magic time. That's the greatest results that they've seen. Okay. But for seniors, again, you're going to go with more 60 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, or even 10 if you just want to try it. Okay. Now I'm feeling really comfortable right now. So I'm going to get my step stool in here to where I actually have to submerge a little deeper. And you guys have no idea how gutsy. Yeah, now we're talking. Okay, now my guts are under. It's a totally different animal. So once you get used to doing this, okay, once you get used to doing this, I know professional athletes who do this. I work with a lot of professional athletes. I work with a lot of collegiate athletes. They just get in and go under, okay? And once you get in and go under and you're used to it, you go pretty numb fast. So 3 to 5 minutes is how long it takes to go completely numb when you're in extreme cold. Professional athletes are doing this at home from the convenience of a controlled temperature tub or a deep freezer that they just put water in, and they turn it up enough to keep the water temperature about 42 to 45 degrees. So if you're extreme individual and you're wanting to experience the extreme benefits and you don't have any underlying conditions and you're trying to maximize your metabolism, homeostasis, fat metabolism, 42 to 45 degrees is pretty happening in the professional world for up to 10 minutes. You don't want to stay submerged any longer than 10 minutes at that extreme because that's when the reaction of hypothermia can kick in, and you can actually suffer from frostbite by being in a cold water immersion, believe it or not. And frostbite happens more often than not on the toes and on the fingers. So that's why I got my little toe socks on. Now that I'm used to the water temperature, I can actually get the toes, the little socks off if I want to, because now I'm not fighting it. Okay. My body's used to it. Now, the rest of my body is not underwater yet. So we're going to go ahead and put my hands under. And why is it important for hands? We have nociceptors nerve cells on our hands that are more powerful than the nociceptors on the bottom of our feet. And so your body receives energy, information, where you're at in space through the skin on the palm of your feet and the palms of your hands. And the hands are more powerful than, or more hypersensitive, if you will, with those nerve cells than the bottom of the feet. And I can feel that happening right now. My hands are starting to go numb and they're burning and they're miserable, but I know it's temporary. So what to remember, if you have Raynaud's syndrome, where your fingers and your hands and your feet turn purple or red with cold exposure, this is one of those contraindications. So for you individuals, you want to make sure and wear neoprene gloves and neoprene feet covers, foot covers, because your fingers and your feet are very receptive of that information. And if you are zapping, if you're shocking your hands and your feet and you've got Raynaud's syndrome, it's very painful. So don't do that. Make sure that you are protecting yourself while still being able to engage in partial cold water immersion. Now, I will just tell you, if that tub was full of water of 103, that would feel so amazing right now. And I would be able to express to you how much magic that I would feel by getting back and forth. But I will tell you this, when you go from one to the other, it feels like a deep burning sensation. There's nothing wrong. The water's not too hot. It just, you're shocking your system back and forth. So remember, 3 minutes of hot for 1 minute of cold. And if you are somebody who is suffering of an autoimmune disease, ease into it. I'm at 60 degrees right now. I'm going to hang out here for, 15 or 20 minutes while we're chatting. That's why I held off on submerging too quick. And now we're starting to feel better. Now we're starting to feel better. Okay, so yeah, so I'm starting to see some posts coming through. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Arthritis. Here's what I want you to know about arthritis. The definition of arthritis is simply the inflammation of a joint. So joints feel stiff, joints feel painful, and that happens because the connective tissue and the fluid in our joints becomes more like peanut butter sticky glue instead of being fluid like jello or like honey. So it goes from what it should be with honey to sticky peanut butter and glue. And so we want to make sure that we are flushing that stuff out, and getting things moving. So you can actually move in the plunge tub if you want to, if you have the space to do it. You can go from sitting to squatting, or squatting to standing, I should say, or stooping if you want to do some movement exercises while you're in your tub. But cold water immersion does make a huge difference on arthritis. In fact, you'll feel a calming. We do that with a lot with athletes who are training at high volumes of intensity, and their volume is very high. So they're in season, they're pushing hard. I've got a lot of kids coming in right now who are in middle school or high school. They haven't made it to their peak performance yet, and their knees and their shoulders and their hips are already starting to have pain. I've got 12-year-olds coming in with degenerative disc disease, and we have to be able to reverse that process by lowering the inflammation. And arthritis is just simply inflammation. So at the age of 55, if you are in otherwise very strong, positive shape, like don't have any heart conditions, don't have diabetes, don't have any peripheral disease, then feel free to get in at 60 degrees starting at 15 minutes and just see how you handle it. And if you want to go longer, up to 20 minutes is like what I would recommend as the max professionally. But if you want to go colder after you've gotten used to it and just seeing how your body responds, every human body is different. And how we detox our body and how we eliminate the junk in the trunk and how we get our lymphatic system moving better as far as maintaining how well our systems are running, has a lot to do with how we actually feel. So remember, when you are doing cold water immersion, in the manual, it states that you shouldn't use salts or oils or chemicals. There are other polar plunge companies that say that using bromine as a disinfectant is fine. I would not suggest putting chemicals that you would use typically in a swimming pool, because we don't have a pump in the tub circulating the water. And so it actually breaks down the vinyl on the inside, and on the outside, it is a ripstop polyester. And so you want to make sure that the lifetime of your tub, that you're giving it a chance to last a lot longer. So don't put hot tub chemicals or chlorine or bleach in your tub. You can put Epsom salts, which are really good for muscle relief or for joint pain relief. You can use, and the great thing of why are salts important? We have an electrolyte imbalance for most of us, and we don't get enough magnesium. Some of us get too much sodium in the wrong kind of way. We have to have certain electrolytes in our body in order for our body to do what it's supposed to do. And when we fall deficient of those electrolytes is when our body starts to not perform the way it does, and it starts attacking itself, or it starts wearing sooner. So the really cool thing about Epsom salts is it has the electrolyte in the salt. So you don't have to consume it through your mouth, because our skin is one of our greatest sensory organs and detox organs. So if you're wanting to detox without having to take a systemic supplement, and you're wanting to flush out through osmosis, the electrolytes with water, then the electrolytes actually will seep through your skin while you're submerged under, getting into your system and alleviating those problems over time. That's why Epsom salts, and some of them will have peppermint. Peppermint is a great essential oil that you can use in your Aleva Chill tub. Lavender, if you have skin conditions, if you have autoimmune problems with skin, psoriasis, you can use lavender. Tea tree oil, melaleuca is another really good one. There's a lot of different great essential oils that you can put in your water that are safe to put in your water while you're soaking. But again, the owner's manual is a little off on that, and it kind of contradicts the science. So we are making changes and edits to the manual based on how we originally designed it, so that we can maximize some combo therapies, not just using contrast bath, but using other modalities like essential oils and salts. If you go back to history, if you lived in France or in Italy back in the Roman Empire days, you would have a lot of soldiers would be submerging in cold water or in hot water or doing contrast. So it goes all the way back to the Roman Empire with Hippocrates. But Hippocrates wrote in his findings that if soldiers could, or people who were sick, whether it was an injury or whether it was a disease, if they could soak in the mud of the sea, or if they could submerge into salt water and absorb those natural electrolytes, it actually healed their wounds and their joints faster, so that they could prepare themselves for further battle. So it's been known for a long time, centuries, for humans to submerge with electrolytes and essential oils. Lavender is one of the main essential oils, but lavender essential oil is made from the actual plant lavender. So make sure if you are using essential oils that you're using a reputable brand. I am not here to promote any specific brand, but I will tell you that I personally use in my medical facility, because they're medical grade, Revive essential oils, Revive. And they have been third-party tested. They have an entire organic line. You can go seed to source, and it's not a multi-level marketing company. They sell it direct to consumer, and they have a guaranteed backing. So if you don't like it, you don't respond well, they'll refund you and accept the returns. Great company. And I've been using their products with all my clients on a medical level for pain management for probably close to 5 years now. Before that, it was Young Living, doTERRA, and Rocky Mountain Oils, as well as plant therapy. So those are just some of the companies that you can look into for essential oils. But I'm going to warn you that if you do buy essential oils from the local grocery, from like TJ Maxx on the sale rack, be careful with those oils, because majority of the time there's a lot more filler and chemical in those than what they are purity. So make sure that you're getting your essential oils from a pure source, so that you're not introducing that as an additional toxin to your system. Okay, so that is a discrepancy that I wanted to clear up in the user manual. Is essential oils, Epsom salts are perfectly fine. I did an experiment with this, and I had water in here for a period of 2 weeks with the cover on. So when I filled it up for the original launch, I left the water in it, put the Aleva Chill cover over it, and didn't come back to it until yesterday. There was a very mild film of, I'm going to call it sludge. It was clear. Okay. I don't know if it was my body oils. I don't know if it was dead skin, but it was on the surface of the water along with a few little bugs. It's not airtight, it just cinches together so things can get up underneath. But when it comes to cleaning out your Aleva Chill tub, make sure that you drain your tub, you rinse it out with regular water, and then we just use Dawn dish soap. Okay, Dawn dish soap is a degreaser. So if you're using essential oils or you're using Epsom salts, Dawn dish soap is a degreaser that is user-friendly to the skin and to your body. So if you use it to wipe down the perimeter of the inside of the tub and wipe down the floor of the tub, it works really well. Just make sure that you get everything out, so that when you fill it back up, it is pure water. It's not sudsy. You don't want to be sitting in soap suds. Now, can you use a bubble bath, or can you use Calgon, take me away, right? I would be very cautious at doing that, because again, you're entering a chemical into your body through your skin, and your skin is trying to detox. So when you're introducing bubble bath, you're introducing a powder that comes from a major manufacturer. You're not introducing purity into your system, and that's what causes autoimmune problems. That's what causes chronic disease. That's what causes a molecular shift in the body. So do make sure that if you do that at home, I would not do it if you're doing a cold water plunge, because you're already shocking your system as it is. We don't want to introduce more toxins as we are trying to detox. And for those of you that are watching, I see Kimberly just chimed in. It looks great. it actually feels really good right now because I'm used to the water. And I've lost track of how much time because I didn't set my timer. But it actually feels calming right now, although I wouldn't choose to do this on an off day, but the water is still 60 degrees on the dot. 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius. Um, so it does, you do come around, okay? And it does make me feel younger and it does make me feel chill. And the best part about it all is the first time that you saw me doing this, the temperature outside was almost 100. And so I was fighting humidity and fighting the heat and the sun. And today the temperature is like in the 70s and it's a cloudy day and then fall is getting ready to shift. You can see the leaves behind me starting to change colors. So it's not a hot day today. So I'm actually doing this outside in the low 70s and it feels great. Now, if you were to ask me to do this in the middle of winter in the snow, it would take me some time to acclimate to that, but it is possible. We might have to have one of those lives just to have fun. Here's an idea for all of you, and here's something I'm curious about. If this is something that you would be interested in, if we did a group polar plunge via Zoom, if that would be of interest to you, if we were to send you a link via Zoom, whether it's through my business or whether it's through LifePro, if we were to set up a Zoom call in which we all get in together and we all suffer and laugh and restore together, I'm interested in how many people would enjoy that experience and that we can go through it together. But here's the deal. If we plan on doing this, you cannot have a blank screen. You have to show your authentic self so that we can all laugh and share this moment together. There's nothing worse than being on a Zoom call with a screen that's blank because somebody doesn't want to show who they really are. And we truly need to embrace who we are as individuals. We all need to be confident and feel safe enough to know that we're not going to be judged by what we look like, how big we are, what color our skin is, what kind of skin funk or spots we might have on our body. Like we are truly trying to embrace restoration and feeling our best self together. And I can't think of a better way to do that with Life Pro than doing it through a Zoom. And that if that is something that you guys might be interested in, I think that whether, and I'll give you the option, you can do a hot water plunge or you can do a cold water plunge, or you can do both. I will promise you this. The next time I do this, I'm going to be doing it from my shower in my house because I know the water will fill up with hot water and I know it won't create a mess and we can make that happen. So if we do this again, we'll actually fill up from my shower because my shower is big enough for two of these tubs side by side. We might be squished when we're videoing, but I know we can do it in my shower. I will tell you, if you go on Amazon and if you don't want to buy ice and you don't want to worry about how you're going to get your water to temperature, they do make a device. Life Pro does not make this yet. Sound off to Joel, okay? But if you go on Amazon, they do make a pump or a heater, or it is a machine that you put in the water and it actually brings the water temperature down to that ideal temperature. It takes about 24 hours for it to do it though, from what I've read, because I've done some research on this. And they also make heaters that you can submerge into your water without having plumbing, on enclosed in the tub. So there are other people that are using tubs very similar to this, or using like a horse trough or a cattle trough. We had those here last summer before Life Pro came out with these awesome plunge tubs. And so I do know that they do make products out and about that you can put inside your chill tub to cool the water down without using ice and to maintain that temperature, so that you don't have to worry about buying lots of ice. Because some of you don't have the ability to carry 20 pounds of ice up a flight of stairs or to wherever it is that you're going. And so the garden temperature typically for most people, I think, is going to be around 60 to around 65 degrees for a lot of people. But if you go on Amazon and look, they do make polar plunge motors that actually change the water temperature. I've done some research on this. I'm seeing a comment that it sounds awesome and a little scary. I'm just going to tell you a little secret about how I continue to get younger in my life, because I continue to age backwards the older I get. I'm 45. I got mistaken for a 30-year-old last week. It was an awesome compliment from the young man. I don't know if he was trying to flirt with me, which kudos to him. I was more than accepting to accept his compliment. But he was like, "You're seriously?" I asked him. I said, "How old do you think I am?" And he said, "Oh, you're probably like in your mid 30s." I'm like, "Nope, you're wrong." He's like, "Seriously, you're not in your 30s." I said, "No, I'm 45." He's like, "Wow. Like, how did you do that?" And if you look at what I looked like when I was in my 30s, I actually looked about 10, 15 years older because I was so sick for a while. So I've had adrenal gland fatigue, fibro, I've had the hysterectomy. I've had to learn to walk again. There was a great podcast released just today, so I'll share that link with you about my story and how I got to where I'm at in the world of recovery as an expert. Um, and so I'm going to tell you that if it scares you, then you're doing something right. Because when we get into our comfort zone is when life doesn't change much and when we don't grow. And so, in order to continue to grow and in order to get better in life, mentally and physically, we have to sometimes do things that make us feel a little uncomfortable and scare us a little. And then when we're able to embrace those opportunities, we build confidence, we build self worth, and life gets better because our brain is bouncing those neurotransmitters and those hormones, and that's what keeps us thriving. That's what keeps us from developing autoimmune problems. When we start to doubt ourselves, we start to look at being afraid of doing things because things are not within our control. When we start to look for blame as to why things are happening the way they're happening, that's when life gets really stressful, and that's when we actually go backwards. That was my life from the age of 25 to about 32. Okay. And then I had my daughter. And then about 5 years ago, life got complicated again, out of my control, and had to get very uncomfortable, which is when I found Life Pro. So sometimes the greatest miracles that happen in your life come from being uncomfortable and doing things that scare us. And that's okay. So again, I promise you, you have my word as a moderator and as a leader in this exercise. If there are some of you who want to do a Zoom call with me, whether it's through Life Pro or through me personally, I am happy to work with Joel and or working with my assistant at creating a group in which we can plunge together, whether it's hot or cold, I don't care. But the conditions are you have to be willing to do it to where we can actually see you. And you do have to wear clothes, okay? You do have to wear like a swimsuit or some short shorts, or if you want to wear tights, all the power to you. But clothes are required when you're plunging. Okay. If that is something that is interesting to you, then definitely make sure you post a thumbs up or that you're in or that you're interested so that we can provide the feedback to Life Pro in order to make that happen. Okay. Now, I wanted to share another study that I read last night. Was again, I read studies last night. I've been in this business for over 20 years, but I read some studies last night because I wanted the most updated research that's out there. And so there was a study that was done on athletes of whether they plunged for 1 minute, whether they plunged for 10 minutes, or whether they plunged for 15 minutes. And those who plunged for up to 5 minutes did not have any change in outcome in how their body felt from a pain standpoint or how it performed or from a hormonal stress standpoint. Those who were tested that plunged for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes actually had more favorable results. So the secret is going a little longer than going less. And again, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes for your body to become numb to the temperature change and to adjust to the temperature change. And I know I've been in here for at least 20 minutes. So when you get out of the water, just remember that you allow your body temperature to come back to a warmer environment before you go get yourself in the shower, unless you're doing contrast and you're already used to it. But if you're in a chill tub of cold water and you're getting out of the water, use yourself a towel to bring your body temperature and back to a little bit warmer temperature before you get in the shower, because we don't want to get into a hot shower or a warm shower and create a difference in how your body responds from a systemic standpoint, so the heart and the lungs and the brain, We want the body to adjust and adapt from one extreme to the other. Okay. So I'm going to ease on out of here, and my booties are still on. And kudos to Roseanne for plunging on vacation in California. She was plunging on her back porch in her condo rental and took it with her. It's whoo, flipped myself with water there. She was able to take it with her, so it was really good that she can enjoy that from the viewpoint. I love these responses. Okay. Yes. So Kimberly Clark, if your husband tore a tendon in his knee and had to have surgery, it will make a huge difference as to how his body responds to recovery. So definitely go for that. Okay, I've got my towel here. Whew. Yes. Now, if I were in like Montana or Idaho or Utah where it's really cold all the time, and if it were cold outside, I would be going inside to sit by the fire. But it's not too bad out today. Like I said, it's in the 70s here today, nice and cozy. And so not too bad. So that is a little bit about contrast. Warm tub, 100 to 103. 104 is the max temperature for hot. For cold, ideal temperature is 50 to 60 degrees. If you are a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete and trying to get to the extreme, or you're a weekend warrior trying to get the extreme experience, it takes a lot of ice to get, if it's possible, this to 42 degrees or 45 degrees. I do know of a lot of athletes that are doing those types of plunges, but they're doing it by using a tub that is designed to temperature regulate itself. So they're not putting ice in it, or they're using a deep freezer that you would store extra beef and vegetables in for the winter, and then they're actually filling it up with water and turning the temperature up to a temperature, or I'm sorry, turning it down to a temperature that it doesn't freeze completely over. And I have seen colleagues of mine, friends and colleagues of mine, who have the water trough that turns to ice, and they actually go out and they like hammer the ice and break it up, and they get it in submerged. So it does work. Okay. But again, if you are much older or you are compromised with neuropathy, hands or feet, ease into it at a warmer temperature. So 60 degrees is what I was in just there, and it was great. I feel refreshed, feel really, really good. And then the other thing is, you don't have to do this every day. If you do it twice a week, just start with twice a week. If you want to do it every day, some people do it every day as a ritual. That goes back to the Turkish baths. That goes back to Turkey in like the 1800s. I actually wrote a book about that last year. If you want to do it as a ritual, you can do it as a ritual. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with water that are quite therapeutic, that require no pills, no procedures, no insurance, no extra money other than the cost of the water in the tub. And it works for the majority of the population. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. We'll go back and have some takeaways at a later time in order to keep it simple. But for those of you who are here and listening in, thank you so much for your time. And we'll look forward to doing a community plunge together via Zoom, where we can all share and laugh and talk, because it's always easier to do it as a group than it is to do it alone. So thank you all for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great weekend.